Hey everybody, welcome back to Reddit Talks Clash. This is our episode 8. I'm Frank and I'm glad that you're here. We'll go around and have everybody introduce themselves, but like we were saying to everybody who hopped in before we started recording, we are not on our usual Fridays. We do an episode every other Friday evening where we talk about the game and talk about the state of the sub and use some posts, but this one's going to be a little bit different. First, we've got our guest that we'll talk about in a second, but the main priority is that there is an update coming to the game. And so this is a Sunday special that we're putting out to talk about the update, talk about the new clan capital feature, have a Q&A with everybody who's here. But before we get into that, let's introduce ourselves, and then we'll turn it over to our guest. Sam, how are you doing?
Doing good, thanks. So yeah, I am Sam, or /Ninja Recon. I'm Town 14 in the same clan, funny enough, as Mac and Frank here. And Rick, how you doing?
Yeah, good. Congressman Cool Rick, just Rick for short. We're doing good. Who else is here? Spencer, you gonna talk? Do we got a voice debut for Spencer?
Negative, Ghost Rider.
Oh, okay.
One day.
Still
One
try.
day. For anyone who doesn't know, Spencer is our Wizard of Oz behind the curtain who makes everything happen. He handles a lot of the comments, and one day we'll get a microphone.
Right, Mac, what about you? Or are you in and out right now? I think he's in and out. Well, the most important person to introduce, I guess, Ninja. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
So
tell us just a bit about yourself, because of course I'm sure many people here know who you are, but for those who don't, just brief introduction, what you do.
Sure thing, yep. So I'm Ninja. I'm the developer of the Clash Ninja website. If you're unfamiliar with the site, it essentially is an upgrade tracker and stats tracker for Clash of Clans to make it easier to plan out and track your upgrades on your village and figure out how long's left and what you want to do next, really. And I'm quite active on the subreddit. I don't tend to post every day, but I do read most things on there and respond to people where appropriate. So hopefully a lot of you are aware who I am, and if not, be sure to check out the site at clash.ninja.
super excited that you're here. I know that I've used your website for a while now. My main account is maxed, and I use the tool on my alt accounts. But it's really neat. And I had a question for you. Anybody who goes to clash.ninja to just see what the website is all about, you've got the tool that he was talking about, but you also see just a lot of good content on the site. And it's got a few guides up right now. The one that looks like it's featured is which pet should you pair with your heroes? And I wanted to ask, where do you get these guides? Do you write them yourself? Do they come from community? Do you outsource them? Where do you get a lot of the content for your site?
All done by myself. So essentially, especially the early days, although Reddit had a good source of guides, a lot of people would look for them on the original Clash of Supercell forums, and some of them were outdated and incomplete. So I started writing my own guides early on just to pad the site out with some content, really. But no, everything on there is written by me. I've got countless articles that are in draft that I've not got around to finishing. So there will be more in due course, but you know how things are. All done by me.
Rock on. So are we good to just dive straight into some update talk, do you think?
Yeah.
Sounds like a good plan.
Cool. So just a brief highlight before we get into some of the Q&As, breaking it down of the people who are in here. Me, Frank, and Rick, and I think Ninja as well, are all in the NDA where we get to see some of the things in the update. And so we have been familiar with this for a couple of months now and can see kind of the direction that it started in and then where it's going to be implemented into the game, and can answer some of the questions that people might have for whenever it does get released to the game at large. But if anyone's been living under a rock, we are about to come into what Supercell is describing as the biggest update to the game since they added Clan Wars. And it is a clan capital feature. So it's a big group project that your whole clan gets to work on. And you got a new base. You can upgrade different districts of it, is what it's called, where you basically get more bases to the one overall clan capital that you have. And then every weekend, clans will be able to attack each other's clan capitals by progressively beating every base all the way up to the top of the peak. There are new troops that are being involved with this, new defenses that are being involved with this, a lot of really cool things that are being added to it. And so we'll take some specific questions. We won't go into every single detail for it, but I want to start off by asking Ninja, what do you think about this brand new game mode, especially as it's going to relate to your online tool? Is there any, considerations? Are you going to be able to put in an upgrade timer or tracker with something like this? Because I know the upgrade system is a little bit different, and maybe you can speak to that too. But how do you see this being involved with your niche in the Clash community specifically?
Right. Yeah. So from the get-go, I'm not going to have anything in place for the actual Clan Capital itself. As people are probably aware of now, there's a lot of new mechanics there, which I'm going to need to take a bit more time to figure out how best to handle that. But in respect to things like the Forge, that's something I'm looking to get in place relatively quickly within the update launching, just because then you can tie that in with the builders being busy, so that everything's kept track of when they'll complete. I think realistically, probably it's only going to be high-end players with maxed villages, or people who've got perma level accounts, who are going to be really making use of the Forge early on, at least. But that's what I'm looking to get in place on the site in the early days, at least.
Yeah, the Forge is like a very interesting kind of thing, because obviously it really, really benefits max players. I think I'm probably one of the only people here who isn't max. And for me, really, I can't imagine myself dedicating more than one builder to the Forge, because it really would slow down my main base progress to say I was dedicating 4 builders to it or something. So I don't know if anyone has any opinions. Is the Forge is it too skewered to max players? Because obviously this is meant to be an update for everyone. Yeah, that's the whole point of it. But yet it feels very restricted to max players.
If you still have upgrades on your main village, don't worry about the Forge.
Here's something that will make you feel a lot more comfort about it. I think you'll make 3 times as much in a single attack in your capital raid versus one upgrade in the Forge.
You know what? So I'm gonna pull up the raid history on the dev build and try and get an idea of what rating a max district is going to be.
The Forge can produce 2,400. Is that right? Something like that.
Yeah,
capital gold.
Yeah, that's right.
If you're 14, if you're Town Hall 14, you can have 4 builders going, and
a single raid could get up to 6,000. Maybe
so.
More.
Let's back up for just a second while Rick is finding the tool. Again, in case anyone's been a little bit slow to figuring all of this stuff out, one of the most unique mechanics of Clan Capital is that you don't upgrade via time. You put resources in, and then things upgrade once you have put in enough resources. So again, that's part of why it makes Clash Ninja's job a little bit difficult, since his tool is kind of based off of time. But you have the Forge on your home base, where you can convert normal gold, normal elixir, dark elixir into capital gold. And that's what you use for all of your capital stuff. And so the question now is, how much does that really benefit max bases? Because if they're not using their builders, they can dedicate 5 at a time. And I think the initial impression that a lot of people are having is that it really favors maxed bases. But I think the reality of the situation, which is kind of what we're getting at, is that it might be a little bit different.
Yeah, so I guess if the raids really do have a much larger amount of medals or gold, than Forge, and it probably wouldn't be too impactful. But then there's also the thing that raids are only a weekend, right? That's 2 out of 7 days in the week. So if you're playing the Clan Capital, say you're, Tower 10, right? You do your raids on the weekend, you spend your capital gold, then what do you do for the rest of the week? I'm really excited about this update, but I do constantly think, what is there to do during the week?
Well, one of the big things, at least to me, and I think they might have changed the numbers on this. Maybe Rick and Ninja can clarify this point a little bit. But you log in every day, and your Forge has just a little free amount of capital gold that you can get. And then you can also dedicate a builder to work for, I think it's 3 days, using a set amount of loot to craft more. And I think the free amount is just OP. I think if you've got one maxed account who's putting all of his builders into it versus 2 Town Hall 10s who are just logging in every day and claiming what they can get, that it's going to be pretty similar. The free amount is pretty nice.
Every day, Max Town Hall 14 is going to get 550 every day, and I think that scales down. I gotta force myself to a Town Hall 9 or something. I'll do that in a second. But then circling back, I just pulled up one of Beaker Labs' raid history. So one of the districts started out with, it was the Barbarian Camp, started out with 11,000 available capital gold, and those are going to take 3 to 4 attacks, I think typically. So you're going to look at 3,000 gold per attack, and you get 5 attacks. So I think saying through the raid weekend, each individual is going to be able to earn 15,000. Once we get a little more upgraded is pretty reasonable. Early on, with low level stuff, is going to be less capital gold resources. So if you are that Max Town Hall 14 with resources to burn, especially because y'all just got season banked a couple hours ago, that seems like it's going to be the source of the majority of the early upgrades is max players using the Forge. But later on, you're going to be able to get a significant amount of capital gold through just attacking. So I still wouldn't stress needing to tie up your builders and your resources, especially if you have important upgrades on the main village.
I think it's also important to remember that it's not meant to be a feature that's your primary focus every day. It's more like a side event, a bit like clan games and CWL. It's going to be a cooperative thing for you and your clan mates to participate in at weekends. You get get the raid medals in return. You get something to progress that's a bit new and different. But during the week, you're then meant to go back to focusing on your home village or clan games or clan wars and things. It's meant to just be another activity to work with on your clan. And I think. And the Forge, although I've seen there's been some criticism from the Max Town Hall players feeling that they've not really had any real content to get their teeth into in the last few months, which I'm in the same boat. I've got a few maxed accounts. I think those are the people who are going to be able to really take advantage of the Forge and give them a reason to stay in Legends and keep farming or whatever they decide to do, and then look forward to the weekends where they can make more of a contribution than some of the lower level members in their clan.
Okay. So real quick, it's 550 a day, regardless of town hall level in the Forge that you get.
Yeah, and that's quite a bit. How much do you get from? It's a different amount depending on what resource you combine, but it's essentially 550 or something equivalent to it for 3 days worth of work and committing a builder to it.
Yeah. So you get 550 free every day, and then you'll get you can get 2,400. For 3 days of build time, and whatever, the amount of resources changes as you go up in town halls, and you unlock more forge spaces. You can't start forging until town hall 9, and you get a second spot at 11, another one at 12, and then at 14. So I know at town hall 14 you're converting 7.2 mil in 3 days of golden elixir, 72,000 dark elixir, and 1.8 of the builder elixir and gold. Those all take 3 days. You get 2,400 for gold elixir and dark elixir, and and it's less for builder elixir. I gotta switch back.
That's a bit more than I thought, to be honest.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I keep thinking in my head is we keep throwing numbers everywhere, 550 for each day, but I don't know if you guys know any more about this. I expect those with NDA probably do, so I'll leave this question to you guys. How much does stuff really cost? I don't really have a perspective on how much all these different buildings cost, because I keep going, okay, so 550 a day, but relatively, I kind of have no context to how much that actually gets you or how far that gets you.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, I know Ninja was playing around with upgrading early stuff. Do you remember how it felt?
Yeah, I mean, at the lower levels, everything's a bit cheaper, just like in the main villages. I seem to remember that some of the smaller ruins you'd repair for traps and maybe one defense was 2,000 to 3,000 capital gold, maybe. Walls were always a heavy hitter, especially at the high levels. You're probably looking, all the walls are upgraded in a oneer rather than piece by piece, and you're probably looking at 180, 190,000. So those are big sinks. And then some of the large defenses, they start going up to, is it about 40k, I think. So you're not early on, you can basically have one village, do a few raids, and unlock something on your own. But going forward, it will take some cooperation or you to get an army of alts to really make a dent on the big stuff.
Yeah, and so I think going back to what Ninja had said before, I think the real, I don't know if it's skill expression, but like the real way to be good at clan capital and upgrade as fast as you can, while it would be nice to have, maxed accounts who can really dedicate to the Forge, and that definitely will show itself over time. I think a clan that has 50 active members who all attack on the weekends is going to be just fine. And the reality is that like a clan of 50 maxed 14s who attack on the weekends, like, yeah, they'll probably be a little bit faster. But if you guys aren't maxed and if you're using the Forge whenever you can, but not a huge priority, as long as everyone's logging in every day, everybody's committing on the weekends to doing as best as they can, I think pretty much any clan, especially starting out, can have a pretty impressive clan capital.
Yeah, and it's not like there's any huge rush to max the clan capital. It's not like you get a 6 builder at the end of it, say like builder base. There's no direct huge incentive to be the best.
Pride,
apart from
competition.
yeah. Apart from the what they do called the raid medals, there's really nothing huge you're working towards. So have fun, enjoy the journey, I guess, because there's no like huge detriment to not being the first to max, if you got what I mean. I don't know how different the raid medals might vary if you're higher up, or if that even matters at all. So I don't know if anyone else can share some insight on that.
Yeah, so just backing up for a second, raid medals is basically the currency that you win from being good at the clan capital, and raid medals can be spent pretty much in 2 different ways. One is at the trader tent, which is going to be reworked to work with the clan capital, as well as be available kind of in a different way to the main village. But you can spend raid medals there on magic items, or you can spend them to fill up your own clan castle, which I think is a super novel concept, and is maybe my only critique of the whole thing, is that the system of clan capital rewards a full clan that really works together well. And those clans also tend to donate very well too. And so the idea that the currency you get from having a full cooperative clan is self-donations is a little bit funny to me. But I think it's going to be really good for super troops. You can give yourself random ones that people might not have boosted or something like that.
I was about to say, I sometimes like my quirky super archer clone blimps, and getting someone to boost super archers for me is always a pain. So I think that's kind of the area which will be most helpful in. It's not like you're going to probably fill a Yeti bomb by yourself.
I have a question about it for either Rick or Ninja, if either of you guys pay more attention than me. Does filling your own clan castle with raid medals affect the cooldown at all of requesting?
No, it bypasses that. So say, for example, nice. you do an attack and you've still got the 10-minute or whatever cooldown on your CC. You can use the second hero life to immediately attack again, use raid medals to insta-fill your clan castle, and you're good to go. You ain't got to hang around waiting.
Oh, that's awesome. So that'll be really good for training pots and like the second attack type of things. So that'll be really cool, I think, no matter what clan you're in.
So just about the raid medals a bit more, because I've been reading, obviously, all the information that's come out, but I don't know if I've looked too closely. So how many, I assume you get them at the end of a raid weekend. How many does a player typically get from a raid weekend? And then how does that compare to what you can buy?
I think we're going to be sitting on a lot of raid medals. If you need to be constantly buying potions, if you look in the trader, all the really valuable magic items that are going to be in there, there's multiple books in the weekly trader deal for gems. But then if you look at the trader stuff that's available for raid medals, it's resources, training potions, builder resources, who cares, and then like potions and wall rings. So if you want to buy a lot of potions, like you might be low on raid medals, but if all you're going to do is fill your own CC request, you're going to have plenty, like for a long time.
Well, I think it's great. And I think this whole update is really geared towards accounts who are still progressing. So as much as people are talking about a max account having some sort of advantage for clan capital, I think the real advantage comes to the main base of people who are still upgrading, because they will use those raid medals every week. And whether it's on loot or training pots or whatever, I think it's really good for those types of accounts. And then I think it cycles in a book occasionally in the same way that the regular trader tent does. But I don't think are ever going to be hammers.
They are looking at adding really cooler and more significant stuff to the raid metal side. It's not anything that we're going to be allowed to talk about yet, because obviously it might not happen. But if you are the kind of guy who's looking at the raid metal stuff and feeling a little disappointed, they are going to expand that later. It sounds like.
Well, and you also have to keep in mind the cadence of the game, that every other instance of magic items being introduced so far are kind of on a monthly basis, whether it's clan games giving you some once a month or CWL giving you access to some once a month. And this is the first like kind of free editions of magic items that we'll be getting on a weekly basis. So there's a chance it feels a little bit underwhelming in how much you get in terms of how much you can buy magic items with it. But if it adds up over the course of a month to be like one full spread of clan games rewards, then it's going to be as valuable to your main base as participating in clan games would be. So I think week to week, it'll be good for self-donos and the small magic items maybe.
Yeah, I think everyone just needs to remember that this is like a really good foundation Supercell has made. Sure, they don't quite have everything yet. They don't have all the rewards you might want. They don't have all the features you might want. But they've got like a really interesting new concept which they can really build up from. Sorry, compared to Builder Base, which hasn't received an update in years at this point, major content updates. Hopefully they will stick with Clan Capital, and because they've got so many new features like raid medals, Capital Gold, all this clan cooperation, weekend raids, there's a lot of potential to go somewhere with this, even if all the features you really want aren't quite there yet.
And even being very pessimistic, if you really don't care about what's on offer, at the end of the day, you can still sell the potions and stuff for gems, and gems are always handy, to have kicking around. So
definitely. So I'm starting to see some good questions. If you don't mind, if we move into that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, cool. Fox Comprehensive is saying, how will people leaving and coming affect the capital?
As in, like, say, during maybe CWL?
Hopping shouldn't affect much of anything. I know, especially during the way raids work is going to be just like clan games. So you're going to get locked into a clan and have to use all 5 of your attacks or 6 attacks in that specific clan, but you're not like locked in until you start that attack.
Yeah,
so it's not like a war spin. You don't have to be included at the start of the raid weekend. You can hop as much as you want, but as soon as you do that first attack, that's the clan you're stuck with. And the 50-person limit still applies, just exactly the same as clan games too. You can't raid in multiple clans. You can't bring in 100 people and keep your raid weekend going forever. Exactly like clan games.
And so there's a kind of permanent aspect of it, in the sense of as soon as you upgrade a clan capital, that stays with the clan no matter what. So if you commit a week's worth of time and resources into a clan and then you go somewhere else, you can't take that with you. But you do get, and this was, I was making sure that this was okay to talk about, you do get an XP type of system called reputation points, and that does follow you around. So if you're going on
similar to Everdale, if anyone's ever played that.
Yeah. And so if you ever go on the I Need a Clan channel in the Discord and you're saying like, hey guys, I'm looking for a new clan, I promise I can help in the clan capital, and then you see your reputation points, other clans will know like, hey, he's pretty active at this game. So it's the same thing essentially as like builder hall trophies or whatever other metric you would use for activity, but just for clan capital. But it is like, it does stay with the clan that you're a part of no matter what. And then like Rick was saying, when you lock in on the weekend, you are stuck there. So you can hop a lot. It's pretty forgiving of moving between clans, but a few ways where it's pretty permanent too.
Yeah, so I just want to deviate really slightly about the reputation. I wonder if it'll become more of a thing that clans look for when posting, say, recruitment ads, like a requirement. So you might say, I don't know what the scale is, but say minimum 20,000 reputation at some point. I wonder if that will become a real thing people look for, because trophies are never really something clans care about, because people drop trophies all the time for whatever reason. But reputation is kind of a direct activity mark, which is something clans look for. So I just wonder if that will become something that's kind of desired a lot or required by lots of clans.
Maybe. I mean, the game is also going to track how much capital gold you've put into a capital, and that number will stay with you on your profile when you move. So people are going to know if you're.
What's
like
the difference?
It's just.
Isn't that exactly how they measure reputation?
Yeah,
I thought your reputation goes up with your capital gold contribution.
Yeah, your reputation is just exactly like your XP level on the main side. It's just what they're calling XP on the clan capital. So you're going to be able to see like, hey, is this person a town hall 14 and they have like if the capital's been out 7 months and they still are really low level, they don't really play it. They're probably not attacking on raids and they're not spending money. Eventually, I don't think many people will really care about it, but you will be able to see like someone's lifetime contribution to any and all capitals of parts of clans they've been in. But yeah, like once you spent it, if you leave, they're not downgrading buildings just because somebody leaves.
Cool. We can breeze through a few more questions for everybody who is listening in live. Feel free to ask us questions about this. Anything that you have about the update that you're not sure about or that you'd just like to hear us talk about, we're going to try and address as many of these questions as we can live. One of my favorite ones came in. It was the second comment on the whole post that said Ninja from Fortnite, ? So I want to toss that over to Ninja. How often do people think you play Fortnite?
I mean, as you can see from my avatar, I have a blue mask, so that's kind of like having blue hair. So I guess, does that make me Ninja from Fortnite? In all seriousness, no, I'm a different guy, unfortunately.
Do you play any Fortnite?
I gave it a go and it came out, but compared to some of the other Battle Royale games out there, I mean, I much preferred Apex and PUBG, but I can see why it was popular.
Yeah, I guess now's not the time to talk about my severe Fortnite addiction a few years ago.
Yeah. So a different question that we had wasn't even a question as much as it was a comment. But someone said update has nothing for maxed players. And I just want to talk about that for a quick second, as I think 4 or 5 of us here are the perspective of a maxed account and why it would be exciting to someone who's already done in-game, even if there's not much that you can do with raid medals.
I mean, when we were first given all this information, I was in the boat of thinking, I was hoping for more to do in the home village. I'm a bit disappointed. People are going to be upset about this. And now that I've had a bit more time to reflect and get hands-on, there must be points in the past like where we've just had more levels and you just think, okay, yeah, there's stuff to do, but it's just the same stuff, a different week. It's nothing fresh. With the clan capital, it gives those max players some new game mode to play, different attack styles. You get access to these different troops, some new troops. It gives you something a lot more fresher than just rinse repeat with upgrade more walls, upgrade your archer towers some more. So I've done a U-turn from being disappointed about the lack of home village content to being excited about having something different rather than something we've seen many times before.
I'm kind of skeptical about the longevity of the clan capital too. Just playing it still, like, attacks have felt really simplified. And it kind of feels like I could just spam my way to a good amount of progress, and anyone who's putting in extra effort in planning and strategy is going to do a little better, but it's not going to be a significant big difference. Like you see in war, if I just go and toss down eight E-dragons in a war, like if the base is right for it, sure, I can do well. But someone who's going to take time and meticulous planning is always going to do better. And I don't really get that feeling in attacking in the clan capital. I'm kind of curious what lessons they've brought forward from Builder Base, because I think a lot of the flaws from Builder Base are present in the attacking system on the capital. So I really don't know if it's going to be fun in 3 months from now.
So I don't mind being a huge Supercell stan about this because I'm super excited about it. And I love it as a maxed account because it's something to do with my time. That, like, right now, if you enjoy being competitive at the game, you can stay busy between Legends and Clan Wars and CWL. Basically every day you can find something to do. But there are a lot of people who just love the upgrade grind, and aren't super competitive. And I think for those people, when they max out, it's easy for them to stop playing. And so I think this is just another way of spending your time after your base is maxed, where you're still working on something. And to your point about builder base, I agree that the attack framework is a little bit too close for comfort to builder base, and I don't enjoy the attack strategies in builder base very much. But I think the difference is, at least the reason I never liked builder base, is because it's so independent and individual, and there's no way of working with your clan. You can do FCs together and talk about it, but there's not as much collaboration. There's no clan wars with a builder base. And I like how the capital is just inherently teamwork. And so even if the strategy is a little bit, lacking when compared to the main base, I think people are really going to gravitate towards the community aspect of it, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, see, I think actually more, if there was more skill expression or if the attacks weren't so spam reliant, it would actually be better for the whole community aspect of it, because as you probably saw when I was talking earlier before the pod, like in Discord, I was really excited about say the clans getting together on, I don't know, Discord or just in clan chat and talking through how to take down a base. But then I think it was either Frank or Mac pointed out to me that there probably won't be much need for that, and no one will have an interest in actually. Yeah, it was you, and actually just sitting down and planning an attack, which I think is really disappointing, because I really like the idea of everyone thinking, okay, let's look at this base. I'm going to do this, and then so and so will go in from here. That sounds so exciting
spell
to me,
for you to use next. Kind of
yeah,
thing.
exactly. And they've got all those mechanics half there. But if it's easy enough to spam, then why would anyone do that?
So no, I'll kind of backtrack and revise what I said. I'm not pessimistic. Like, I'm not too pessimistic about it, because they have seemed willing to address that kind of stuff, and even through the dev build process that we've been playing it in the last 5 or 6 weeks, like, they've already made changes to address that. Like, super barbs right now are an individual troop. In the first version of the dev build, it was like drop a pack of 4 super barbs, and the minions are still a group, but they've reduced the size of the minions. Rocket loons were originally like a group of 4 loons, and now those are individual. And so they did reduce the reliance on like squads, I think they were calling them, and that did open up a lot more strategy. And that was all feedback from people in the creator program. So, and also, they did take that feedback seriously, and they're gonna make adjustments as soon as things go live. It's been 100 of us playing it, and even less giving feedback. And as soon as it goes live, I'm sure they're going to pay attention to what everyone's saying and what everyone's using.
I think there's been changes made in the time we've been playing, which has made it less spammy and more rewarding to be surgical and tactical with your deployment. So I think there has definitely been changes made in the right direction to favour skill over spam.
And I think one way that it'll really end up manifesting itself too is that each base is going to be unique to attack, not just because different clans will have different layouts, but different bases will have different buildings available as defenses. And so some of them might have some really crippling ground defenses, or a layout that's really difficult for a ground troop. And then others might have, just tons of air defenses out there. So you'll have to be good at probably 2, hopefully if you like the game more than 2, you'll have to be good at more than 1 attack to be successful at the clan capital, no matter what. And I think having someone familiar with, 2 or 3 strategies, even if it's less strategically dense than the main village, is still, kind of a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know people who only use 1 strategy in the home base. So if they're using 2 in clan capital, that's already a win.
Have they announced how long the spells last? Because I've seen a lot of questions about that.
Yeah, they don't have a timer as such in your attack, so you can deploy them at the start of the 3 minutes and they'll still be there at the end. They will persist for all of the following attack. So if you're attacker number 1 and you drop some spells, you can make use of the spell effects yourself, and they will persist for the following attacker. Once the following attacker has completed their attack, the spells from attack 1 will wear off, but the spells from attack 2 will persist for attack 3, and so on.
It's really fun to chain four rages along and just plow through a huge section of a base. That part's really fun, and there's going to be a lot of creative solutions with dropping jumps and freezing the water and dropping those rages just ahead of time to working that out with your clanmates and clan chat or Discord is like that's where a lot of the strategy is going to come in. Not so much on any individual attack plan, but if you're wanting a more strategical approach to this, like to get away from that spam, that's the aspect that you're going to have to explore, and it is fun to do that.
One thing that really gives me hope too is that this is the Town Hall 8 equivalent. Like we don't know their plans for the future on how this will tie into the main village more directly, or how later on they'll implement higher degrees of strategy. So I'm excited to see where it goes. There's a lot of options.
There could be a ton of districts.
Yeah, and this is a really good segue. This is a good segue into two questions that we have that are talking about the teamwork aspect of it. One is from Miderson and asks if there's a way to limit the number of clan players that can participate on raid weekends, like we limit clan wars. And so is there a way to opt people in or out? And then another question that's kind of along these lines, say, how will someone leaving and coming affect the capital, which we already addressed, but how can we control who attacks what? I feel like clan chat is too hectic for this, is what Fox Comprehensive is saying. And whether it's the upgrading or whether it's the attacking, what do you do when you have a rogue member? Because to my knowledge, you can't limit it. But there's no way to say, this person can't spend gold or this person can't use their war attack. So if they're in the clan, they've got full access to it. Right. You cannot, as a co-leader, do anything about it. So what do you do when you have some guy just like randomly attacking, being bad, or throwing gold at random buildings that you're not trying to upgrade right now?
It's not going to hurt if they dump gold on a random building. The way you stop them from attacking is you kick them, but like you can't really do any damage as a rogue, as being a jerk. If they're a co-leader, they can screw up your layouts, but that's it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a huge concern, because at the end of the day, if they put caps gold into a building you don't want to upgrade, who cares? It'll be there when you go to upgrade it later. So
yeah,
I think the only disadvantage I could see is, say, this is a really exceptional case, but say I move my account out to a different clan, just, I don't know, get a donation or whatever, and then someone's mini joins and decides to do a raid. Like, say this is a full clan, then I come back, I can't raid in that clan. That's the only issue I could see happening from not being able to opt people out or opt people in, more specifically. Even then, that seems very marginal.
I don't know, like if I'm dropping spells to try and set up something specific for the next guy, and then an idiot clanmate comes in and attacks next, that would kind of mess up some strategy. There's no way to prevent that. You just have to plan out and hit back to back. As far as dumping gold onto random buildings, there doesn't appear to be a limit of how many buildings you can have upgrading at once. So that also, I don't think would be an issue. Ninja, you and I talked about that too. Like, did you notice a limit, or can we really be dumping gold into 8 different things at once?
No, I couldn't see a limit as such. The only limit you're really doing is just you're slowing down your clan's progress, because you're spreading your gold a lot thinner than if you target some tactical upgrades. But it's not like when you're in multiplayer, where if you're upgrading an Inferno Tower, that Inferno Tower is out of action until it's completed. It'll be more like the war layouts, where you'll have the lower level active until you finish the upgrade, and then for the following raid, it'll be the upgraded version.
Cool.
Right. So I've noticed we're getting a lot of questions coming in, and there are a few of them that are kind of quick fire, quick answer ones. So is it okay if I just blast through them? I'll shout them out. Someone can give an answer. We move on. They're not really ones that need discussion, more just a yes or no or one sentence.
So dude, try me. I can talk about anything.
Okay, so can I buy gold elixir with raid medals?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can we start regular war during raid weekends?
Yeah. To my knowledge, they're entirely unaffected. You can keep your regular war schedule. You'll have your regular CWL schedule and all that.
Right, perfect. And does the clan capital give any XP for a raid?
I don't think so.
It
Right,
means like
so
main village XP?
no, sorry, yeah, I should have specified clan XP.
Oh, clan XP. That's a good question.
I don't think so. I'll pull up a stats from a raid weekend and double check, but I really don't think so.
I hope it would though, because the idea of starting out a clan at level 1, if this is a way of increasing your upgrade time on your clan perks, that'd be really nice.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's a quick
it doesn't look like it.
Okay, that's kind of upsetting, but oh well.
Might be a quality of life feature in the future.
Yeah. Here's an interesting question from the man, the myth legend himself, Spencer. What do you guys think of the new balance changes? They're kind of something that was shoved under the limelight a bit, because of course the new game mode kind of trumps balance changes, but I don't know if you guys have played with them much at all, or just given it a bit of thought.
Oh, who can tell us what the balance changes are real quick before we get into it?
Air defense, HP boost. Super Dragon was having its DPS reduced and range reduced. The Black Air Bomb was having its damage increased.
Builder huts.
One thing off. Builder huts have got increased repair amount, and the Unicorn has a reduced heal amount.
I think the Unicorn is the big one, because that is, like, as a percentage of its heal, I think that's the biggest nerf. The rest of it, I don't know. I've seen a lot of people talking about it. The guys in Clash Tips were trying to break it down, and I don't think there's any real big breakpoints from all the other stuff. It's just like all together, like it seems like kind of a larger Super Drag nerf. I don't think they're going to be useless, but it's just all together. It's probably going to add up to something more significant, but nothing individually felt like a huge Super Drag nerf.
Yeah, I think in most games, range is a huge nerf, but for some reason, it just hasn't felt like it'll be a huge deal for Super Drags.
Yeah, I remember when Dragon Riders got their range nerfed, and it kind of did nothing. But yeah, I kind of think the Unicorn is probably the biggest nerf, not just statistically, which it probably is, like Rick said, but also heroes are extremely powerful, and you could see queens with a Unicorn, which easily could have died 2 minutes earlier in the attack, live till the end of the attack. And that's especially prevalent in like dragon spam attacks, where often it's the heroes cleaning up at the end, because the queen has just taken a little bit of damage going around the base, but is still full health because the Unicorn. So I wonder if that will actually hinder attacks a lot. If the queen is popping ability earlier, dying earlier, I could see that as having quite a big impact.
It's definitely made me more thankful for my queen targeting a wall.
Yeah, it gives her a second to heal up.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, so who knows? I think they definitely are flying under the radar, and if it is a huge change to the meta, that'll be pretty interesting to see what the backlash is for people who have no idea that there are balance changes to the main village because they've been focusing on clan capital. But let's breeze through 2 or 3 more questions that'll be kind of quick to answer before another one that's a discussion one.
Question?
Oh yeah, what's up, Matt?
What do you guys think is the time frame we should look at to max our clan capital? I'm talking about maybe not for like 50-50 die-hard, try-hard clans, because I am curious about them too, but for an average clan as well. Any idea?
I reckon you're looking at a number of months. I've not been paying super attention to the numbers because I suspected they were going to change, so I didn't bother sinking too much time into it. But I reckon to fully max out something, you're probably looking in the region of maybe 5 to 7 million capital gold. So then if you work that back and think you could get, say, 15k per account.
Let's call
per
it
weekend.
30k per account per week, given the forge and
that's
rates,
right. Yeah.
right?
So yeah, you're looking at months, unless someone sinks some serious amounts of gems into it. And then obviously, if you look at the mountain, you can see there's some spots lower down that look like they could be populated further down the line, and you got a bit of runway there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see Dr. Mujpata's capital base, if it's just totally maxed on day one.
Oh, it's so many gems you'd have to spend. It's doable. You could. It's possible. It's just all buying resources, finishing the Forge with Gems. But oh man,
it does make you wonder. Is there going to be that one person, that one clan that does that?
I did some very rough calculations, and you're probably looking at 1.5 million gems plus, and that's just on that's just on time, I think.
Any idea how many pounds that is?
No one uses
like
pounds,
5 figures.
Yeah, they do.
You're probably looking at, was that about 15 grand, 20 grand?
Oh, man. Well, so that's actually a good segue into one of these questions, which will hopefully be a quick one to answer. Do you think new troops and spells will be added often to the clan capital? Because I agree with what everything's been said. It looks like the initial update is going to be, for the speed runners, maybe 5 months at the earliest, if I had to guess, something like that. For the huge gemmers, they could maybe do it sooner. But for the average clan, we're looking at 6, 7, maybe 8 months to get close to max. So do we think that they're going to keep coming out with new content like every update, or will it be like a builder hall type of thing where they just come out with a new thing once a year, once every other year? What do we think the cadence will be?
I think it kind of depends on I think it kind of depends on how popular it is. Every question I've seen asked in the creator NDA chats has been like, hey, is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? What's the future here? And they're like, maybe, so that could just be them being non-committal to what the plans are. But I don't know, it makes me optimistic that they're ready to expand on it, but it's also, I'm kind of skeptical that if it does flop, it could just be another builder base. But yeah, I don't. There's a lot of places to go to. Seeing the temporary troops is cool. Like the skeleton barrel is back. The barb carts are back. And there's a lot of other temporary troops we've had that could, there could be Ice Wiz, Electro Wiz, like Royal Ghost could be added because they already have those assets built. So if we ever get future districts, which on the map there's space already built for 15 of them.
So that's where my gut is at. Is that and I don't know anything at all, but my hunch is that pretty much every update for the next year or so, I think they're going to come out with another base, which is just one part of a whole tier, and it'll probably have either a new troop or spell or something to try and keep momentum going for at least the first year that this is released.
I think you just kind of got to remember that Supercell is here to make money at the end of the day, and it'll be a builder-based situation again. If people don't play it, if people don't spend money on Clan Capital, they will not be updating it, or at least not regularly. Because we haven't had Builder Hall 9 came out years ago now. That if I'm not saying this will happen, I'm definitely not, and it's way too early to judge. But if that sort of thing was to happen with Clan Capital, where people just don't care, actively hate it, don't play it, they won't update it. So it really is just how successful it is.
Before I forget, they did mention that there would be capital stuff in through the season passes and maybe clan games and stuff. I haven't looked at the gold pass rewards for the season. Is there anything in there?
No, well, nothing that stood out to me.
There's not capital gold rewards or anything, because I know they said that.
No, but there wouldn't be, because at the minute capital gold doesn't exist in the production.
Oh, true.
game.
So yeah, okay, yeah. I guess the update hasn't dropped yet, but
noob.
I don't know. I guess we'll look tomorrow. And probably more likely the June gold pass.
Yeah, I can't see them alternate gold pass mid-season, because if people say they've already gemmed to the end, what happens there?
Yeah.
Well, historically, there have been additions added. Like one of the monument things, or the statue things, was added retrospectively halfway through the season, and just in one of the blank spots, it appeared. So we have seen things like that happen in the past. Not saying it will, but I'm just saying similar stuff has happened.
That'd be really cool. It'd be fun to see that as a frequent feature of the Gold Pass. 2 questions that are related to each other. Will joining with alt accounts to donate to the clan capital be beneficial? And then do you think there'll be non-maxed players who will use the Forge on a regular basis? So do you want to throw in just alts, or do you think you want to lean towards maxed bases as much as possible? We kind of talked about this a bit, but...
I think trying to get close to as 50 people participating as close as you can, that's always beneficial. Even if they're Town Hall 6 players with all level 1 defenses, they still get to use the same troops and same number of attacks as a maxed 14. So that'll definitely be beneficial if you want to progress. And personally, on some of my lower level accounts, research potions from you for raid medals is probably one of the things I buy the most of, just because the lab is very heavily weighted in your overall upgrade time. So smashing a day, 3 days off a week from your raid medals, like, it's going to start adding up.
It's in a roundabout way, it's nice to be able to transfer resources like that from high accounts to low accounts, because everyone's going to get the same amount of raid medals and everything else. So like I can dump more of my excess resources into the capital, which is going to benefit all the lower accounts in the form of raid medals. So it's a roundabout transfer process, but it is one.
I'll say is one thing I think that we're hitting on that I think is what we really need to focus on a little more is how good this is for the game in general. I think for new people playing, to be Town Hall 6, which you can get to Town Hall 6 and max it out in like a month, and then you get instant access to be a real help to your clan in clan capital during raid weekends. And I think having that aspect of the game is going to really help new players feel more a part of a clan and also stick with the game for longer, which is going to make your competitive scene better in the long run and everything else.
Definitely.
Yeah, because at the minute it sucks recruiting if you're in a clan that's in Masters or whatever in CWL, because if a Town Hall 10 comes along, they're never going to get rostered because they're far too lower level to participate.
Yeah, that issue is not going to be affected at all. But you're going to have people stick with the game longer, being able to contribute to the clan they're in, wherever it ends up being via the capital update.
So one of my favorite questions that came in that we can talk about at least for a couple minutes is, do you think the fact that we can now move our home village loot around will affect the economy of the game? Do you think farming will suffer? And that kind of goes into, like, do you think non-maxed players will use the Forge? I know on my Town Hall 11, I just upgraded to 12. It wasn't maxed. It was like a little bit of a rush, but I had maxed Dark Elixir all the time because my heroes were done. And even now that I'm 12, I'm having one hero upgrading all the time because that's what my clan rules are for war. And then I'm just sitting on some max Dark Elixir. And so on that account, I would use some in the Forge, some of the Dark Elixir on my 12. Do you think if people have these maxed loots that they're now throwing to the Forge, that's going to hurt farming in a significant way?
I honestly don't think you'll be that judgmental, because let's look at it this way. So the people who will be spending the most loot on the Forge are going to be max Town 14s. And then also think, who are the people most in Legends, so aren't even contributing to the in-game economy as well? Max Town 14s. So immediately, them spending a lot of their excess loot isn't really hurting the in-game economy. And then when it comes down to the lower accounts, like every other Town Hall, and even non-max Town 14s, there's the argument that, people will be dumping loot into the Forge, but then people are also dumping loot into buildings, If they're not using, if they weren't using that build on their Forge, they'd be using it on an actual building, which might even cost more. So I don't think it'll be that impactful, personally.
Yeah. And then, also too, when you're attacking at lower levels, like how many people are out there looking for storages? The best farming is always looking for dead bases and just hitting their collectors, and you don't have a chance to spend that collector loot when you're dead anyway. And I agree. I don't think it's going to change too much. There might be, but there's lots of stuff they could do to tweak that too, especially with the Dark Elixir. They've mentioned a bunch of times in the past, like, hey, like that, there could be super troop changes. We're able to. Since you're able to buy raid tokens or use raid tokens to fill troops, like if no one has super whiz, you can just buy those. And now someone else in your clan isn't needing to spend that 25k Dark Elixir too. So there's already a little bit of balance there. And we'll have to see, but I don't know, I'm not stressing like the economy of the game. That's always felt like a random excuse not to do stuff anyway, when they say, oh no, it might mess up the economy, but it's tweakable.
Yeah, and I think people have always had some strong ideas, and there's never been a good consensus, but different players will think that like the best loot is in this league or the best loot is in that league. And I think the only part of the whole economy this might hurt is maybe High Titans, where you have a bunch of maxed bases that would have full storages. But like in Legends especially, where a lot of these max bases are that have tons and tons of loot, you have fixed loot that you get from Legends anyway. And so I don't think it'll hurt it too bad, kind of like what everybody else is saying. Let's do 2 more real quick questions that are just some logistics, and then one last conversation that wraps a couple of questions that were asked. But that guy, Ryan, said, will gemming be usable in the clan capital? And I didn't look too closely. I know you can gem the loot in the forge to be done faster.
Yeah.
But I don't... Yeah, can you gem the actual upgrades themselves?
No. You can only gem capital gold. So, like, yes and no. You can't get around that, but you can jam your way through it.
It will just cost you a stupid amount of money.
Yeah.
And then, can you upgrade and add gold to buildings during the weekend? I know that you can, but I don't know how it affects the actual clan capital war. Like, does it upgrade in between attacks, or is the base that you came into the weekend with set for the entire weekend despite your upgrades?
I think it's raid to raid. So obviously once you work your way up, clearing all the districts and then clear the capital hall, then it's a new raid. I think, though, any upgrades completed during raid 1 would then appear within raid 2 and so on. I think. I've not tested it.
Everything I've seen makes that sound right.
Cool.
Real quick though, this is a good spot to interject this. There are things that are disabled during raid weekend, like friendly challenges. So you're not going to be able to friendly challenge at all during raid weekend, and that's because
friendly challenges for the clan capital, like regular friendly challenges.
Right. Yeah, sorry. So you are able to friendly challenge the clan capital districts. There is no cooldown, so you can do it immediately, and whoever starts the friendly challenge on a district can be the one to attack it as well. There can only be one active friendly challenge on each district at a time. But yeah, you can build bases and test them immediately, just not during raid weekends.
Kind of on the topic of raiding, I was thinking, so obviously Supercell made a point about the fact that once you finish the raid, go straight into the next one. But realistically, how many raids could a clan actually do? Not in terms of time, but more in terms of attacks. Because I don't think it's very well explained in the dev video, but your 5 attacks, or 6 if you get the bonus, don't reset every raid, do they? That is your entire attacks for the weekend. So
Correct.
how many raids could a clan actually do with the attacks they have? Like, say, a normal, 40-person clan.
So in the most recent test we did, we maybe had 25 participants, or maybe 20, between 20 and 25. They all did all of their 5 or 6 attacks, and I think there was 3. They're on to the 3rd raid, so they wiped out 2 raids and was partially through the 3rd one, and that was with max stuff. So it'll be a bit easier at the low levels to get more. You almost do like clear one district solo. So I think with a 40 to 50 man clan, you'd probably get 4 to 5 rounds of raids. Maybe better if they're quite competent. That's probably a relatively good ballpark.
It's going to be wild. Like whenever the first raid weekend is, it's going to be real weird. Like seeing exactly how many clans we get through of clans that are clan capital level 3 and all level 1 or 2 districts. It could be a lot. Each clan is going to have up to 300 attacks for a raid weekend if you have 50 members and they all get the bonus attack, which is going to be next to impossible to manage. But 250 to 300 attacks in there if you're a full clan. So each district is going to be probably 4 attacks, maybe 5 on average. So yeah, if you're good, you can get through a lot of clans in a weekend.
I don't know if it'll ever get to this point, but I'm super excited if it ever gets to be so in depth that it takes your entire clan every attack to get through a single clan capital. I think that would really be like a climbing up the mountain, just slogging together as a team type of vibe, and I think that'd be really fun. But we've got one more kind of combination of questions, and this will be what we close with, and then we can do our shout outs and wrap up. But Osis asks, do you guys think there will be clan capital wars in esports, and how would that work if there were? And another user says, how competitive will clan capital be? How will competitiveness evolve? And so where do you guys see this going in terms of like the highest form of competition? Do you think there will ever be an esports scene, and just general competition and clan capital conversation?
I think there's definitely potential for it. Obviously, there's at the minute, due to the asymmetric formats, and there's no friendly wars or friendly raids, whatever you want to call them, in place from day one. So early on, it won't be possible. But I think there's definitely, especially some people come up with some layouts which really catch you out and cause you to waste an attack. So there's definitely a competitive aspect to it, and I think there's potential further down the line for it.
Yeah, what would be super interesting with Clan Capital Esports, if they did decide to venture there, was would be that normal teams in esports, say Clash of Clans esports, are 5v5, or maybe the team will have one reserve. But for Clan Capital, you can have teams far bigger than that. So it'll be interesting to see, will we see Queen Walkers with a 40-man roster for Clan Capital, and then that kind of opens up esports a lot more. And also, you don't need to be a max Tower 14, which is a huge, huge benefit for anything esports related, because obviously, being good wasn't just a requirement for being into Clash of Clans esports. You also have to have spent years on the game maxing. But when it comes to Clan Capital, that's just not the case. So there's a much lower barrier for entry, which is something quite interesting.
It's just going to depend where they take it from here. I know I've seen the devs say, like, wars might be on the table in the future, or more clan versus clan kind of stuff, and it's just going to depend what shape that takes if they decide to go that route. But there's potential for having it be entertaining to watch. In its current state, I wouldn't care to watch, just to see another clan, how far they can chew through random clans. I don't know, that's just me.
Yeah, and as big a fan I am of Supercell and everything that they do, and I want everything to work out, I just don't see how this would be enjoyable to watch currently. And it's just, it would take so much time. I think if it gets to the point where you do like a 5v5 and the clan capital is like very extensive and it's difficult to get through an entire capital using 25 or 26 attacks, however that would work out. Or I guess it'd be 25 or 30 attacks if it's a 5v5. I could see something like that potentially taking off. But like for an esport, while the competitive nature is one huge part of the conversation, how entertaining it is to watch is the other half of it. And if you don't have something that fits pretty neatly into like a 1 hour match, it's pretty difficult for people to want to follow along with.
Everything right now feels like a really solid foundation that they can build out from. So definitely. It's not like it's everything in this update it's a ton of information to throw at people in 4 days. It took me like 2 weeks to really wrap my head around everything, sitting down and actually playing it. But it still feels pretty shallow. But like I said, it's a good foundation. There's a lot of really cool, interesting places we can go with it in the coming months. So I'm back and forth on being skeptical about a lot of stuff, and like I do see a lot of problems, but I'm pretty optimistic that they're going to be able to address them and keep content coming for the capital that's interesting and compelling and making us want to keep playing.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's not the most feature-rich thing right now, because as you said, it took you weeks to get your head around it, and so many people have had questions, and just, there's been a flood of information. It's a lot for people to comprehend already, and I think with even more features, even more game mechanics, it would become far too overwhelming. So I think for now, it's fine to have not the most fully fleshed out thing in the world, while people just get to grips, get upgrading the clan capital, get used to the attacking style. Then they can choose where to branch it out from. And like you said, there are so many opportunities for them. They haven't created anything that's super constrained. So I'm personally quite optimistic, like you said.
And then as far as how is competitiveness going to evolve, we touched on this a little bit, but my hunch is that everyone's going to get good with one ground attack and one air attack. That meta is going to be pretty set. And I'd be thrilled if there were, 4, 5, 6 different super viable options. But I think the way it'll end up panning out is there'll be just one ground attack that's going to be really good on bases where you can ground smash. And there's going to be one air attack that's going to be really good when there's, just tons of water or the mountains or, things that interfere with the ground attack.
The main thing to remember is due to the limited deployment zone at the start, and quite often people will put all the trash buildings at the start, you're not going to want to go in there with a super big heavy hitting army. You're going to want to pick off as much as you can surgically to open up the deployment area as much as you can. So there will be benefits to not just using a one-size-fits-all army for everything, because you want to try and, especially as an opening attack, depending on the layout, you want to try and be a bit smarter.
Ooh, that would be a really fun direction for it to go in. If you could realistically take out any base with like 3 attacks and it turns into a set opening attack that broadens the map, and then like a power charge for the second, and then a cleanup for the third.
Yeah, like so,
whatever you want to call it. I would think that each village, or whatever you want to call those, each layout, because of the obstacles, the water, the mountains, will have like an ideal approach to section it up.
Yeah, right. Like being able to put notes on a specific district could be nice, but also like it might move along way too fast for that to be really useful too. But some kind of additional method of communication, I think, would be useful to help in that aspect of planning.
Yeah, Darian was actually on the thread a few hours ago talking about possibly adding a feature where, say, you like mark a certain building that you want to prioritize as a clan. And he said it was someone else's idea, but he said he'd forward it up to the dev team. So I wonder if they add that in, would they'd also think, let's add some notes for district attacks or raids, very similarly to war notes and war claiming.
Well, what I'm really hoping is they do something with rank too. One of the big concerns I've seen has been that in order for people to help with the layouts, they have to be a co-leader. But then as a co-leader, that's a lot of trust you place in people too. So some kind of rank adjustment would be nice, even if it's just like, a capital builder, simple rank, and that's the only thing they could do. But just to allow more trusted people to adjust those layouts would be nice.
Yeah, or even just a selector. Like, say you have a menu which says clan capital editors, and you can just see all the clan members, and then co-leaders can select who they trust to edit the clan capital. You wouldn't need a separate role. It could just be a nice little menu, and that would probably serve its purpose.
Well, like Rick said, I think a lot of what's coming out whenever the update drops is going to be a really good foundation that hopefully, whether it's additions to the game, quality of life improvements, or whatever, we'll continue to see in hopefully every update for the next year or two. But that'll pretty much do it for us. We're a little bit past our time. Thank you guys for watching, for the 100 of you who are here live, and for everyone who's watching this as a recording. We'll do some shout outs, and then Rick will do our outro and tell you where you can listen to us. But a huge shout out first to Clash Ninja. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Do you have any shout outs for us?
Yeah, shout out to the Supercell team. I know they've worked hard on this, and I'm looking forward to seeing it out in the wild.
Yeah. As for my shout-outs, I kind of want to give a huge shout-out to Zag. Many of you will probably know her. She's been a mod on the sub for years now, I think over half a decade or something like that. And as of yesterday, she has stepped back. So, yeah, Zag, you're probably not listening to this, but we're all going to miss you. And yeah, it's been great.
Love you, Zag.
Mac, do you have any shout-outs? Or is that it?
No, that's all for me so far.
Nice. Yeah, I'll echo that Zag shout out. She's the main reason I got into modding in the first place. She is going to stay on the recruit sub that I also help mod for. And so we'll get to hang out still. But has definitely just been a pillar for the Clash community for a really long time. And probably is going to be a future guest on here one day. Fingers crossed. But I think that's about all I have as far as shout outs to you. Rick, what do you have for us? And then go ahead and do the outro and close us out.
I just want to echo a thank you to Zag. Reddit username DragonBardZ, if that's confused anyone. She's been a massive influence on the sub for close to 4 years now, I think. And we're all gonna miss her. So if you are listening, stay in touch, definitely, for sure. Yeah, that wraps it up. I'm gonna do a quick cleanup on this and push it out to Apple and Spotify and Google Podcasts are the big three. You'll also be able to find us on a couple other podcast sites. If you're one of those niche listeners, it's probably there. And if it's not, shoot any of us a message and we will get it added there for you. Look for it later today. And yeah, hopefully maintenance break is starting soon. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah,
bye guys.
Bye everyone, and thank you to Ninja. It's been great having you.
Cheers.
Problem, mate. Cheers.
Bye.